Hey guys, Bowie here, and this is things I've learned with D.Bowie's Arc Warden in 719. This hero used to be a safe laner, or at least more of a safe laner than he is now, but if you check the Dota buff guide section, there is literally no safe lane Arc Warden, and while I think you can definitely do it, RTZ did play a lot of safe lane / off lane Arc Warden in his games for competitive reasons. I think mid Arc Warden is way superior, and I don't think you're gonna be as effective, but you can do it. I don't want you to lose time explaining why Arc Warden safe lane faded out, because this video is going to be a two-parter already, and this is a long replay, just because of how much there is to analyze in this game. Arc Warden has a lot of strengths in the mid lane with his buffed base damage. His huge attack range allows for great harass. He also has an easy way to get range CS thanks to the Spark Wraith. And one of the biggest ones is this. When you play Arc Warden, you want to eliminate a range CS as fast as possible, changing the focus to yours, and if you got a decent block or the enemy has no means of getting the CS from far away, this is what will happen. Storm, being a hero that relies heavily on walking forward, gets punished hard in the laning stage. Self gets committed before the 1 minute mark, and we see an interesting thing from Arthur. He could have learned Spark Wraith level 2, but in this situation, as he gets level 3, Storm is very far away from the creeps, so he has to either run towards them and take even more damage or disengage, so he gets the flux. Another Self being forced in another minute. And in a couple of seconds later, he actually gets a kill. He constantly traded with the Storm as he tried to get CS, but he was prepping him for the kill the entire time. As he goes for it, he already buys the mangoes to be able to sustain the pressure when the Storm comes back. And he just constantly traded with the Storm as he disengages. That's the moment to attack, especially when you have level 2 Flux cast range, and there you have it. The double Wraith Band build seems to be getting more and more popular with agility heroes, and that doesn't mean you're not going Aquila eventually. Some heroes benefit quite a bit from the mana regen, and Arc Warden is definitely one of them. It's just that 2 Wraith Bands give you more lane pressure than 1 Aquila for cheaper. More mana and strength to work with makes you better at diving and fighting and getting kills. Earlier on, top tier players will constantly get mangoes to sustain their mana pools, meaning that the Aquila mana regening lane can be easily and better replaced by mangoes. Arc Warden can also go Hurricane Pike later, so the double Wraith Band is not necessarily a waste of gold later on, although a lot of the times you do see the item being sold afterwards. Speaking of mana and mangoes being useful, look at this play. RTZ commits Flux on the Storm while the creeps are still coming, so once again Storm has to choose between getting closer and avoiding the Flux or just trading with Arthur, or else he's just taking free damage. He knows that Storm has an illusion rune, but even then, he commits the Spark here, he forces the rune, and Spark can also be used to scout runes. The strength of Arc Warden is fighting away from creep waves, so when the Storm seems to be committing for that arcane, he eats the first mango while he makes sure to take the illusion away, because that would reduce the Flux damage and take the slow as well. And eventually, that is another kill. The problem with the Arc Warden versus Storm matchup is that it goes similar to other matchups like Lina, where Lina owns the lane but can feed relentlessly later. Pressuring him early and using that advantage is important so that you can take the Storm when he wants to go on you. When Lash TPs to try and leech experience while Storm jungles, RTZ can easily take him down thanks to the experience advantage. Tempest Double is a huge power spike and it's always a kill on low level supports. Note how RTZ just right clicks with the Tempest Double but micros the real hero so he doesn't get stunned. Pretty crisp. Now, how do you explain this level 1 Necro trend? The easiest way to do it is to just compare it with similarly priced items that Warden could go for. The Maelstrom, the Midas, the Travels, and Necro. I guess Meteor Hammer was popular for a while, but people forgot about the item. Some of them offer farm, some of them offer wave clear, some of them offer mobility, is also a combination of both things I just said, but Necro is probably the most balanced item in that regard, especially when you consider the early game. In a game against a Nyx and a Storm, you cannot be showing in lane all the time if you're a Maelstrom to clear it. While the Midas is great since you get 2 and the cooldown reduction, it's also super slow item. The Necro build allows you to farm Ancients, and since you're doing that, you don't really need boots since they're close to the mid lane. You also get a lot of mana regen that this hero really needs. You can shove waves with no commitment, and it's just good. Why don't you go all the way to Necro 3 though? Well, a lot of different reasons. It's a hefty gold increase that doesn't really improve your farm that much. Midas is just insane on this hero, and you really want it. In fact, there's a lot of items that you want, so going for a Necro 3 is kinda weird because you don't want to just like push towers with the Necros. What you want to be doing is farming Ancients, and the Necro 1 is enough. Speaking of the Necro, RTZ finishes it at 8 minutes. And this is one of the big differences between mid-Arc Warden and the side lane ones. You just get way more farm faster, and you're already in the mid lane to make use of both Ancients. He predicts the stun from the last year and TPs out knowing that Storm probably doesn't have Vortex, and he was right. Now, when he backs to the lane, notice how this hero can easily make Ancient stacks. But to farm them, you want to shove your lanes first, and that is why Necro synergizes so well on mid-Arc Warden. Since you didn't spend any gold on boots, you're also super tanky at this stage, and things just click. This hero, at this stage, dies if people can close the gap on him, but if you're tanky and you actually have the Necros and all this mana to actually work with, you're getting more spells off, and thanks to the double flux Arthur commits here, Storm easily dies. This hero with these items farms so fast that while it might seem incredibly inefficient to walk back to your base with no boots and even buy the Gloves of Haste when you could be buying the boots, you will see how much the Midas timing accelerates this hero. This hero has insane kill potential, even without boots. That's another thing. It's not like you're being greedy. You can still do pretty much everything that normal Arc Warden does, but you're just harder to kill since you're skipping that item. He has more mana regen and you farm Ancients. I think I already said that. Look at this Lashrak here. As soon as he crosses the river, he's dead. Flux gets committed, and Arthur once again predicts the stun well, and that is another kill. You might say that this looks clowny, and it kinda does, but it's just how good this build is. Which hero at 10 minutes, as farmed as he could be, would be able to kill Lash, then withstand both OD and a Storm rotation, get a tower, and just keep farming? I'm not sure. A great part of Necron being good is not only all that I said, but that you're farming Ancients with it and not lane. No one is benefiting from the gold it would give if you just send the units to the lane, and sometimes he will send the units to the lane, but you're not relying 100% on that. There's no 2.6k gold item in the game that gives Arc Warden the chance to farm Ancients like this without losing any HP whatsoever. RTZ buys boots only after the Midas, and Maelstrom is just a natural item at this stage. You're still farming Ancients, the travel mobility is wasted on you. You rarely want to be showing in a game like this since there's Storm and the Nyx. Another thing that the Necro gives you is stealing farm from your opponents too. If we go back, we can see a nice little detail from RTZ's farming pattern. Since his clone has a small duration, he is the one taking all the damage from the dragons, allowing the rest of the Necro entourage to get another camp later since they didn't took any damage. And as he goes back to the lane, he already stacks another one with Spark Wraith. This hero just has a way of being insanely efficient. RTZ to this point was a part of 10 kills, all without boots. This hero has insane reach already, and thanks to the babies, Arthur can keep his distance while farming and stealing farm. Note how he can farm lanes since Storm's showing bottom, and as the Necros farm Ancients, he micros the low HP one to make the most out of them. RTZ receives his boots at 16 minutes, but not before rotating with this haste rune to kill the OD. And the crazy thing about this hero is not only that you steal farm from them, a lot of heroes can do that, but you're stealing Ancients while feeling insanely safe. Not only you're tanky and Storm cannot solo kill you, your Spark Wraiths are insanely high range. They will proc with Invis heroes, they will proc with smokes, allowing you to posture in dangerous areas of the map with no fear. You could still be like, what about D.Bowie? He should be hunting RTZ, he's a pretty terrible player. Yeah, maybe, but RTZ is a 2.1k HP Canadian that can place the Sparks here and attack him easily. Once Arthur has Maelstrom and travels, he doesn't need 2 sets of Necros to farm Ancients anymore, even stacked ones. So what he does is send them to another lane, and that's, with everything I already mentioned, why farming with this hero is so safe. You create a perimeter that is super hard to be approached, coupled with you being tanky and being able to create distractions in other lanes while you just farm your Ancients non-stop. And if you just went for Midas into Maelstrom into travels, you wouldn't be farming the Ancients as effectively. You'll be committing like fluxes and magnetic fields, and you wouldn't just be farming this as fast, and you would probably take some damage on the way. The way RTZ uses the Necros is also not just summoning everything and sending them everywhere. Whenever he uses the clone to Midas, he will summon the creatures, because if he doesn't, he's gonna waste a long cooldown, but that doesn't mean he will summon the ones from his original. In fact, he constantly tries to force lanes and create pressure to farm other areas with the Necros later, like you can see here. Unlike many games I watched, RTZ actually doesn't bother to Spark Wraith the entrances to the Oasis here, but that's definitely something you should be doing when you feel worried. And it comes a point where the Arc Warden starts to get off control. Once you have Mjolnir, your DPS is so great, and if you're after level 15, you're so thick that you can just TP in random lanes like this and get kills on anyone. If the enemy runs away, he will be slowed by the Spark Wraith and you get vision to keep attacking, and if he runs closer to mitigate the flux damage, then your right clicks are way too strong. No surprises that this build was able to give RTZ the highest GPM of any Arc Warden in history, and also the highest GPM in 719 if you discount Alchemist. The Necro 1 seems to be the most effective build by a landslide, so enjoy while you can, because I think this is gonna get nerfed in some way or another, but remember to come back for part part 2 of the video tomorrow. Guys, thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. It really helps to get the feedback. This video obviously is not as complete because there's going to be a second part where we talk about fighting in the late game and builds and how to approach those big team fights. For now, we've just been talking about why the Necro is good in farming. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I am casting some of the Kuala Lumpur games. I'm not sure if you guys are interested in that, but I've been doing quite a bit of that. And I did change my Patreon, so if you guys want to help me out, maybe you cannot sub to me on Twitch, maybe you prefer Patreon, I will be casting your games depending on which tier of the Patreon you select, and I think that is a nice little change up where you can actually get something back to help me out. I have a Twitter where I talk memes and Dota. I have a Twitch where I play and cast, and there's also an Instagram/Discord channel that you can check in the description. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you guys, and bye.